Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech ha'olam shehakol niya b'dvareh. Okay. Good morning, everybody. So today we'll begin a new Maamar for Purim. The last year we finished the Maamar Vayivas be'einav l'shloyach yad b'mardechai levadai, talking about Haman's insane ambitions, and the Medrash comparing it to Esav's Vayivas, Bazui ben Bazui, and the metaphor of the bird who decided that he's going to eliminate and dry up the entire ocean and transform the ocean into dry land with its beak. And that whole story, that was the Maamar of Purim Tovshin Chavav, right? 1966. So today we'll begin a new Purim Maamar. As you can see in the headline, this is Purim Tovshin Yud Beis. This means this is the Maamar that the Lubavitcher Rebbe said at the Fabrengen in Purim. Tovshin Yud Beis would be 1952. Purim was on a Tuesday, so I assume it was the Fabrengen Tuesday night, the night of Mitzvah Purim, Shushan Purim. The Rebbe would always Fabreng on Purim, and this was actually the second year of his Nesius. The Rebbe became officially the leader of Chabad Yud Shvat Tovshin Yud Aleph 1951, so Purim was right afterwards, so this was the second Purim as the leader of Chabad. So it's an incredibly profound Maamar and also very relevant Maamar, as we will see. So he begins with the pasuk La Yehudim, like all the Maamarim, that either begins with a pasuk or a Maamar Chazal, usually a pasuk, but sometimes a Maamar Chazal. The previous Maamar began with the pasuk Vayivas from the Megillah. Usually most of the Purim Maamarim begin with a pasuk on the Megillah. Whether it's this pasuk La Yehudim Haysa Orah, or like the pasuk Vayivas, or other psukim of the Megillah, they begin. So this is a Maamar that begins on the pasuk La Yehudim Haysa Orah. Now today's class is dedicated by our dear friend, Reb Shlomo Kaller. For many years was one of the pillars of this shir, in memory of his beloved grandfather, Reb Adon Yosef ben Reb Baruch Yehuda, in honor of his yahrzeit on the 6th day of Adar. Tehei Nishmasei Tzruda B'Tzrer HaChaim, and may his memory be a source of light and inspiration for you and the entire family, B'Toich Kol Klal Yisrael, L'Arichas Yamim V'Shanim Tovos, with Harchavas Hadas, U'Menuchas HaNefesh V'Haguf on all fronts. And thank you very much for your partnership always. By the way, we always post the source sheets on the yeshiva.net, so if anybody wants to retrieve it later on the computer, it's there. It should be there. La Yehudim Reb Moshe were good. La Yehudim Haysa Orah v'simcha v'sasim v'kar. The Megillah says, this is in chapter 8 of Megillah Esther, as you could see in footnote 1. The summation of the entire story is that the Jewish people experienced, for the Jews there was light and joy and festivities and glory, Yikar, honor. Isa Gemara, this is a famous Gemara, Maseches Megillah, Daf Tezayin. Very good, yeah. That the literal meaning of the pasuk is that the Jews had light and joy and festivity and dignity and glory. But the Gemara teaches Orah zu Torah. Simcha ze Yom Tov, Sasan zu Mila, v'Yikar elu Tefillin. That when it says the Jews had light, it refers to Torah. They had Torah. Simcha refers to the fact that they had Yom Tov. Sasan is the fact that they had Bris Milah. They had a bris, circumcision. And Yikar, dignity, glory, is the fact that they had tefillin. The question is, what's the Megillah is like Yehudim Haysa Orah v'simcha v'sasim v'kar. What does it mean that they had Torah and Milah and Yom Tov and tefillin? I mean, they had that before also. So what does Rashi explain? Pirush HaPashat B'Zeh, Rashi explains there the literal meaning. Lefi shal kalei legazar Haman shebnei Yisrael lo yuchlu l'kaimim k'disiv Medrash Chazal. Because it was these 4 mitzvahs that Haman made a special decree that the Jewish people should not be able to fulfill. As it says in the Midrashim, you have this in Targum Sheni, in Targum LaEsther, many Midrashim. He brings in footnote 4 all the sources. Shahaman bachar b'miyuchad mitzvahs elu liyosim oises ben HaKadosh Baruch Hu v'Yisrael. Haman chose these particular mitzvahs because they represent Isis, they represent the signs of a relationship, of a connection between Hashem and the Jewish people. Limud Torah. Torah is like the marriage document, the shtar, like it says about the luchas, that was like the shtar ksuva, the marriage contract. And Yom Tov as well, these are all called Mikra Kodesh, Oisi Beiniu Beinechem, right? It says about Shabbos, V'shamru V'nei Yisrael Sa Shabbos, Oisi Beiniu Beinechem, Oisi La'olam. It's a sign, it's an ois, that there's a connection. The same is true with Yom Tov, Mikra Kodesh. The same is true with Milah, is the bris, it's the covenant representing the fact that we are always connected. And the same is true with Tefillin, Ukshartam, La'ois Al Yadacha. It's a sign on your hands or on your heads. So B'meila, Haman had a special vicious attitude towards these mitzvahs. Just remember, there was somebody was asking me about tefillin. So I told him that if you're not in the mood of putting on tefillin, I showed him a picture in the Holocaust. There's a famous picture. You ever saw the picture of a Jew wearing tefillin sharash, and they cut the tefillin with the talus. He's barefoot, and there's a bunch of bodies on the ground. And you see. So I think that they were alive. I think they were whipping them or just denigrating them. They know all the details. In Yad Vashem, they have the picture with all the details. It's on the websites. So, and you see them all laughing, watching him in disgrace. So I said, when you see what the tefillin meant to the Nazis, you see how important it's to put on tefillin. If you just see so it did something to them. It was such a victory for them to destroy, to denigrate, to mock the tefillin. What's the big deal? So you took black boxes and you destroyed them. You see how excited they are. So I told this person, from here you see that it's important to put on tefillin. Yeah, it was like, we got them. So this is they felt something in it. Obviously, they felt that somehow this is part of the glory of the Jewish people. And if you destroy the tefillin, you're destroying the glory. V'yikar elu tefillin. The tzakstach tefillin. So Haman specifically had sich verlegt. He was obsessed with these mitzvahs. V'lecheg shebatla gzeiras Haman. Azay leYehudim Haysa Orah v'simcha v'sasim v'kar sheyichel nachzeh l'kayim mitzvahs elu v'oid b'yaser teikav. So once Haman is gone, so what's the first thing that happened? All these 4 mitzvahs were restored. So b'meila laYehudim Haysa Orah Torah Simcha Yom Tov Sasin Milah and Yikaris Tefillin. And not only they were restored with more intensity, with more vigor, with more toikev, with more power. Why? Because they were standing in a nisayon, they were in a special state of consciousness where their lives were in balance for almost an entire year. Remember, the story of Purim, people don't always realize. The Gzeira happened, Yud Gimel Nisan, the 13th of Nisan. Haman was hung a few days later, but the decree still stood a whole year. It was only the next year, Yud Gimel Adar, that there was finally a war, and the Jewish people were victorious in the war. And the next day, Yud Dalet Adar, they rested. So it was a whole year that they didn't know if they're going to live. Achashverosh made a gzeira that Yud Gimel Adar, everybody should kill every Jew in his empire. When did the gzeira come out? 11 months earlier, Yud Gimel Nisan. It was a whole year of Jews in limbo. So Haman was taka executed. That was a big simcha. But the gzeira still stood. Haman was just he was the minister, but the gzeira was still there. It came from the king. So a whole year there was uncertainty. Achashverosh gave permission in Sivan for the Jews to defend themselves. Chav Gimel Sivan came out his letters. So that's what he's saying. A whole year, it wasn't a simple thing. It didn't happen in a few days. It was a whole year of a tremendous nisayon. Yeah, and very good. Sinwar is dead, Nasrallah is dead, but to think that Hamas is dead, unfortunately not, right? Henya, Sinwar, all these chevra, the Hamans of our generation, they're gone. But the inspiration to murder that they implanted, and so many others have, unfortunately, is quite intact. So that's what he says, a whole year, till the final war of annihilation of all the Amalekim, in which they killed 75,000 people in the empire of Achashverosh, all people who came to attack the Jewish people. Yeah. Somebody once told me that they're not comfortable with Purim because there was a lot of violence. In the Megillah, Shushan, they killed 500 people. In the rest of the empire, 127, they killed 75,000 people. What's the celebration? So I said, if you look at the story, if you're trusting the story, these were all people who literally came to murder every Jewish man, woman, and child. So this type of violence is the most moral violence. Somebody comes to kill children, the most moral thing to do is to murder them. That's what happened. They weren't Jews going to look, where could we kill somebody? These were all people who, based on the Gezerah, remember, Achashverosh never took back. People don't understand that. We read the Megillah, they don't understand the story. Achashverosh never took back his first edict. Purim did not nullify the Gezerah. It gave Jews permission to fight back. That's all happened. But there was permission to kill every Jew in the Gemara, because Achashverosh said he can't take back his decree. I can't be a fool. I can't. So he never took it back. He only gave Jews permission to fight back. That's it. But everybody had permission to kill Jews. You'd Gimel Adar. You'll read the Megillah. It's not my Chidushim. You'll see it. It says. People don't realize. They think because they're fasting. They're waiting for the Hamantashen. You have to read the story. There's this whole story. People think once Haman died, it was over. It wasn't over. It was Esh beginning. After Haman was killed, Esther went in. She had to change till the whole Gezerah. Haman was just the representative of the Gezerah, but it wasn't his thing anymore. It was much bigger than him, unfortunately. So B'meila, so he says, so a whole year they stood with a Nisayan, and then they did these mitzvahs. So there was a tremendous appreciation. So that's Pshat in the Gemara, la Yehudim Haysa Orah v'simcha v'sasim v'kar. This is what the Rashi says. Nonetheless, we see Lapel, you see, what do we celebrate mostly on Purim? The first two things, Torah, Orah, and Simcha. Simcha, it's Yemei Mishta v'Simcha. It says in the Megillah, it's established as days of feasting and joy. Torah also, through Purim, a whole new chelik in Torah, a whole new sefer in Tanakh was added. Sefer Megillas Esther, which is one of the Kisvei HaKodesh, right? It's one of the Ksuvah. And the Gemara learns it out from a pasuk in Masechta Megillah, Daf Zayin, because they didn't want to write it down. Esther asked them, the Gemara says in Megillah, Daf Zayin, Kasvuni l'doiris. Esther asked the Chachamim to make a Megillah in Tanakh based on the story of Purim. They didn't want. They told her it's going to create anti-Semitism. That's what the Gemara says. So Esther said, you don't understand. The Goyim already know the story. They already wrote down the story. The Rebbe once said it over at a Fabring, and he said, there's Gemara, Purim Tchafeh. So he said, Esther said, the Goyim know the truth. It's only Yidden Chadj wissen. The Goyim already know everything. It's only Yidden Chadj wissen. Let the Jews at least know what happened. So they said, how can we add a new sefer in Tanakh? And then they used this pasuk in Parshas Beshalach. It says in the end of Beshalach with Amalek, Moshe Hashem tells Moshe Ksoiv Zois Zikarim B'Sefer, that this is referring to Megillah Esther, which is about Amalek. I'll call upon him. So a whole sefer in Torah was added. Not only that, it becomes Mashakasa b'Megillah. V'gam chiyuv kriyas ha'Megillah b'mei Purim u'yin deiros u'Torah. And on Purim, there's an obligation to read the Megillah. So that's a special obligation. Megillah is part of Torah. So b'Meila, there's a special commemoration of Orah Zu Torah on Purim. First of all, they made the Megillah. And second of all, there's a chiyuv to read it and to read it from the Megillah. Not just to read the story, to read the Megillah and to hear it, or to read it. And that's the Orah Zu Torah. So the first two, Orah Zu Torah and Simcha is a Yom Tov. This became part of the Purim celebration. We read the Megillah, that's one of the 4 mitzvahs of Purim. And another mitzvah is Su'udas Purim, which is Mishta v'Simcha, and Simchas Purim. This is also true on a deeper level. The Gemara says in Mesechus Shabbos Peiches Al Apostle Kimu v'Kiblu Yehudim. It says in the Megillah Perek Tes, Kimu v'Kiblu Yehudim. The Jews observed and they accepted. What's Pshat? Zog the Gemara Kimu Masha Kiblu Kvar. Kimu v'Kiblu means they confirmed, they observed, they accept, they confirmed, they were mekayim, they validated and confirmed what they once accepted. What's Pshat? About Matan Torah by Har Sinai, the Gemara says that it was accepted by force because Hashem put the mountain over their head like an overturned vat. Time of Achashverosh, they accepted it with goodwill. So kimu v'kiblu ayehudim, the Gemara says in Shabbos, kimu masha kiblu kvar. What they once accepted, now they finally completely accepted willingly and passionately and enthusiastically. So this means that Purim essentially was another Matan Torah. It was a reenactment of Matan Torah. So it's a whole Geschmacke Teitchen Eidezu Torah, because it was a new Matan Torah, but this time willingly. As an itoysiv beinyan Eidezu Torah, kiven shekimu masha kiblu kvar, shaz Haysa Kabbalas HaTorah bi'as eseis bi'as eres. So when the decree of Haman was finally nullified by the Jewish people standing a whole year with tremendous commitment to Mesiras Nefesh, like he said before, that they stood in a Zion a whole year. So then the Torah, the Eidezu Torah, was in a completely new way. It wasn't just they went back to what happened before, because at that time they did a new Kabbalas HaTorah with much more intensity. So this adds much more to the depth of Eidezu Torah. We can also understand the second idea, the simcha of Purim, which is connected to Yom Tov Sharei Amr. The Medrash says, Medrash Mishlei and Yalkut Shemaini. Kol ha'moedim asidim lebatel li'asid lav v'mei Purim enem telam la'olam k'she kasav v'mei Purim el le'avram techayudim v'zichim le'asaf mizaram. Our sages say that all of the holidays are going to be nullified when Mashiach comes. Besides Purim, because the pasuk says in Megillah that the days of Purim will never pass from the Jewish people and the commemoration will never leave their children. This means that even after Mashiach comes, the holiday of Purim will remain intact. V'nimtze she'inyan yemei Purim shenasa de'amida b'nisoyin paling and shel simcha v'samachta b'chagecha ad kedei kach shegam kasher kol shara yamim tev miyuptelim tiyah simcha demei Purim. So you see that the days of Purim created such a joy, not just like other Yamim Tovim. Simcha is a Yom Tov, but even stronger. The joy is so powerful that even when the v'samachta b'chagecha of other holidays will be nullified, the Medrash says, Purim won't. V'yisedim is furthermore, shafilu kasher yom tov men b'kiyuma. Hinei asimcha sheb'chal yom tovim hi b'medidav ha'gbala shlo yimshach b'yayin chuli. V'chayavim bezdin lahamid shoytrim b'regalim k'tei shalei tiyah asimcha l'mayla men amida. Mashenke b'simcha de Purim arei le'rak shemutel l'mshach b'yayin alachayev inish le'b'sumi b'puraya ad l'yada. Hainu shelo yizubel vat shebot l'hamedidav ha'gbala ela shebitul hamedidav ha'gbala hu achiyuv de yemei ha'purim. Shechayev lebesumah sheperusha yulishtaker u'ba'ofen de ad l'yada shezau heipach hanagad v'samachta b'chagecha shetzarech liyiz b'medidav ha'gbala shlo yimshach b'yayin. So he says, not only in the future when Mashiach comes, you see the difference, but even now, the halacha is that the joy of all the Yamim Tovim has to have limits. It says in halacha, he brings the Rambam, the Shulchan Aruch, and Hilchos Yom Tov, you shouldn't drink too much wine on Yom Tov. Not only that, Bezdin used to send out a Vad HaMesader to make sure that things are organized and not chaos, not chaotic and frivolous. By Purim, you see, the Gemara says, Chayev inish, person is obligated to become inebriated on Purim, ad l'yada, until they go beyond their das. In other words, not only that the limitations of every Yom Tov are gone, but that's the chiyuv of Purim. Sometimes you could say, we're not going to send any supervisors. We're not going to, if it happens, it happens. Here, it's not just that the Medidav Hagbalah, that they're not enforcing the limits. The chiyuv is to be mevatel Hagbalahs, which is the exact opposite of a samachta b'chagecha, where the simcha is there and it's a mitzvah, but it needs to be limited. As he said, you make sure people don't drink. Lo yimshach b'yayin, to drink too much. So here you see also that the simcha that we have on Purim is a whole different level even of Yom Tov. So say the Torah is in a much stronger way, a new Kabbalas HaTorah, and the simcha is in a stronger way. And that's where you see these two celebrations, these two parts of Orah and Simcha are commemorated every single Purim. The reason that Purim is going to exist even when the other holidays are gone. And also why the joy of Purim needs to be higher than the other holidays. It's explained in my Maamar of Chassidus. Shakol in Yesh and Ayin ולכן לא עשד לו ושאז יהיו גילויים של המעלה מסדר השתלשלוס, אז הגילויים שבמיידם יהיו כשרגה בתורה. All the Yamim Tovim are revelations of godliness in what we call Seder Ishtalshalos. Seder Ishtalshalos means the order of structure of evolution from the higher to the lower, and it follows that structure. When Mashiach comes, where there's going to be revelations from a place that's called beyond Ishtalshalos, beyond the structures of the worlds, so then all the revelations of the Yamim Tovim are batal. What do we mean batal? Not that they're destroyed. It's a mitzvah, but it's kishraga b'tiara. Shraga b'tiara is an expression like the candle in daylight. Tiara means in daylight, sunlight. Shraga is a candle. So when you light a candle in the middle of the day, 12 o'clock, right under the sun, the candle is burning, but you don't see it. It's batal, meaning because it's subsumed in the intense light that's radiating and being cast by the sun. So from the Oir of La'asid Lavai, it's going to eclipse the flame of every Yom Tov. This is what the Medrash means. All the holidays will be batal. Doesn't mean that it's literally going to be nullified. Pesach is out the window. Shavuos is out the window. Sukkot, no, we don't do any of this. No, why not? Chas v'shalom. Sharei davar barer mefurish b'teirish shezei sater leitei mechlefes v'lei batal davar mimenu. It's a lashon of the Rambam. It's a clear Yesod in Torah. The Torah is not going to be changed, and nothing is going to be nullified. In fact, it's one of the Rambam's 13 principles. Yesod Hatshi, what he calls, Rambam, yeah. The ninth principle of the Rambam is of the 13 principles of faith is that it's not going to change. And even a Navi, the Rambam says that even a prophet who comes and says that Hashem told them, we're not doing Pesach anymore. It's gone. It was there for a few thousand years, it's gone. Or no Shavuos, no Rosh Hashanah, no Yom Kippur, no Tefillin, Shabbos is Sunday, Shabbos is Tuesday. So you right away know that he's a Navi Sheker. Right away, you don't have to do anything. You don't have to know, you right away know he's a liar. Why? Because the whole reason we believe any Navi is only because of Moshe Rabbeinu, which that everybody saw. And Moshe clearly said that Hanistaris Lashem Alekeinu v'Anigelis Lanu Levaneinu Ad Olam Lasas as Kol Divrei HaTorah Azos. Every mitzvah is Ad Olam, is forever. So right away, if a Navi challenges that, you right away know he's a Navi Sheker. What a Navi could do is he could change a mitzvah temporarily. For example, Eliyahu Navi said there should be makriv, a carbon in Har HaKarmel outside of the Beis HaMikdash. But he didn't say there's no Beis HaMikdash anymore. He didn't change. It was what's called Hayrah Shah, a temporary Hayrah. And he said, if you know that he's a true Navi, you have to listen to him. Love to Shmo. But not a permanent change. So when it comes here, Medrash, and says Mashiach is going to come, and all the Moedim Abteilim, he says, that doesn't make sense. That's not Pshat in the Medrash. The Pshat is a much more edel. It means, because of the intense revelations that will be when Mashiach comes, which are beyond Seder Ishtalshalos, beyond the structures of all of the worlds, from a completely higher, transcendent, infinite space. So all the revelations of Seder Ishtalshalos, including the Yamim Tovim, are going to be batal, meaning it's going to be like a candle in the afternoon, a candle that's lit in the middle of the day under the shining sun. That's the pshat. The Rebbe says, "V'yesh levayin in ze gam bepashtus." Chayre, it's a word in Chassidus, it's a word in Kabbalah. But he says the Inyan really you can explain also very pashut. Why? The hine atam pashut lachilik. Ben simchas yom tov lamayim the matzav de meisachel, hu lefish meachel asukim bovd in the chel. V'lechem bevei hazman de yom tov shebei yashchi of shvisa. Kol malachel yasebem levad malachas echel nefesh. As a yesh and Ayin asimcha kivin sheptelim moved in the chel. Mashenkin lost Lubavitcher Rebbe meisachel you kol inyanim moved in the chel. K'mesha kasav Rambam. Shagam filu b'meisa Mashiach layu inyani daiges. Kivin shekol tzarchi adam yiu bar chava. V'yuchel lasik b'teira sacham k'mesha kasav amdu zarim b'rot zeinchem. Had a Inyan hamenuche b'yamtiv lo yiyu nivdil me'amenuche b'meisachel. V'lechen letiyat tfisis makam lasimcha de yamtiv shebetzad Inyan hamenuche. It's very, very balabatish. It's not only some mystical word, it's gar pashut. What's the simcha of Yom Tov al pi pshat? It's called a day off. Yeah? What they call it, downtime. Time with yourself.
Vacation, Orlando.
Yeah. Holiday, right? Holiday. What's the word? The word is 6 days a week, sheishes yamim tavait. You're busy whether in the farm or in the field or whatever you're busy with. And one day a week, Shabbos L'Hashem Elokecha, is a day of menucha. Same as Yom Tov. So b'mei hachol, people are immersed in uvdin the chol, whatever that means, all the mundane work that people are involved in, and it creates stress, it creates anxiety, and even if there's no anxiety, but it's hard, it's a burden. Comes Yom Tov, there's a chiyuv shvis, there's a chiyuv to rest. Besides, on Yom Tov, you're allowed to cook, malachas eichel nefesh, what you need for food. But that's also part of the tainug of Yom Tov, you should have fresh food. So mainly you have simcha. There's a joy, there's a festivity, there's a celebration, because people come back to themselves, they spend time with themselves, with their loved ones, with their communities, with their friends, with their own souls, with God. So there's it's the celebration of life. You're not busy making a living, you're busy living. For some people, that's more that's harder than making a living, because they're trying to escape that. But You're living a living. Yeah, that becomes a substitute. So Rebbe says, it's Parshas. When Mashiach comes, the whole week is going to be like that. The Rambam explains in Hilchas Tshuva and Hilchas Malachim, right? They finished the Rambam, now the Siyam Rambam said the last halacha in Rambam is the Bais Yazman lo yisham rav, lo milchama, lo kina, lo tachros, hatoy v'tiyah mushmas harbe, kol ha'madanim mitzuyim ka'afar, v'lo yiyah eisa kol ha'olam el l'dasis Hashem belvad. There's going to be so much goodness, no hunger, no war, no jealousy, no competitiveness, and all the delicacies will be as valuable as dust. They'll be so accessible that there won't be any competition. So what's going to be the asik of the whole world? L'dasis Hashem. And by the way, he says even Gentiles. Kol ha'olam. It's not only a Jewish thing. The whole world will be asik l'dasis Hashem b'lvad. Even Donald Trump and Zelensky. Zelensky's a Yid, right? Or to put it in 2025 language, AI will have taken over so successful every burden in the world that the only thing AI will say, the only thing I can do is L'das Hashem. Experiencing God, that you have to go open a Likutei Torah and go to Likutei Torah, that you can do with AI. So since La'asid Love, even though you'll be allowed to do malach, but people won't be stressed out and immersed in Uvdin the Chayil. There won't be all these daigas, all the tzrachim, all people's needs will be b'tharchava. And Fakir the Pasuk says in Yeshaya, you'll even have Zarim. Could be Zarim means AI, chvesis, robots. They'll take care of your flock. So B'meila, the menucha of Yom Tov won't be a psachidish l'gabi yemei hachal. So you say, we're looking forward for Yom Tov. Every day is Yom Tov. So B'meila, there won't be a tfisis makim. Not that there won't be Pesach, there won't be Shavuos, there won't be Sukkos, that's not what the Medrash means. But it won't be tfisis makim. It's like lighting a candle in the middle of the sun. Why is a candle not? Why do you say Shraga B'tira Mayani? By night, the candle is very, very important. When it's dark outside, you have a candle. When it's light outside, the candle is not adding anything. So in other words, when Mashiach comes, the Yom Tov won't be adding to the Shvisa, to the sense of Menucha, because a whole life is going to be like that. So you can understand the Chiddush of Purim. By Purim we say that even Lagabe, the Menucha of Mashiach, Purim is going to be, Purim is here. It's a different Mahalach. That's it. Mashenkin Yemei Purim, Kivan Shesimchas Purim, Adal Yad Alamayla, Meseder Shtal Shalos. Since Purim is Adal Yad, what's Adal Yad? Adal Yad, he says, are they 3 words? Adal Yad doesn't mean you get drunk. That's not a simcha, that's just more vomit. Adal Yad is the pshat, you're going to a place that's beyond Ishtalshalos, beyond all of the structures of existence. That's Adal Yad. So even when Mashiach comes and all the revelations will come from a place beyond the Shtalshalos, Purim won't be eclipsed, not even like a candle in the sunlight. That's how potent and relevant its energy is going to be. So even though, so what's the summation? Even though it says La Yehuda Haysa Orah v'simcha v'sasim v'kar, and Chazal explain that all the 4 things represent 4 mitzvahs that Haman obliterated, and they all came back, and they came back with more vigor. L'poyel, what do we commemorate on Yom Tov? There's no special inyan of Yom Tov connected to a bris milah or connected to tefillin. Yeah, you put on tefillin on Yom Tov, and if there's a bris on Purim, you make a bris, of course, and you put on tefillin on Purim. But there's no special emphasis or celebration around tefillin or bris. But the first 2 things, Torah through reading the Megillah and writing the Megillah, and Simcha, of course, through Simchas Yom Tov and the Mishnah of Yom Tov. And not only that, in a unique way because of the Kabbalah Satira of Purim and the special Simcha of Adar Yada of Purim. And that's the idea that even when Mashiach comes, it won't be nullified. That's how powerful the Simcha of Purim is, even greater than all the Yom Tovim. That even when the other Yom Tovim will be nullified, meaning it won't occupy a significant space like a candle in the midday, Purim will still stand out even when Mashiach comes, and that's what it means. It's not bottle. This is all the foundational building blocks. But now we have to understand what's the Oimeke Inyan is. What is Purim? What's the energy? He said, "L'mayla mishtalshlos ad lo yada." What is the Inyan of Purim, and how do you apply this to your life? What does this mean? This is like the Hakdama, the introduction, but what's the whole Inyan here? So here starts Siv Gimel. To understand this more, bepratis meaning more specifically. Hine yadua, it's known, shebederech klal nechlak seder ha'ishtalshlos al dalet chalakim. Atzilus bri yitzir asiyah. You probably know what the word hishtalshlus means. Here comes the word shalshelis. I've said many times, shalshelis is a chain. It represents the evolution from divine pure energy to the physical world. So generally, Seder HaIshtalshelus, the order of evolution, this is not talking about Darwin's evolution. This is not about the Kabbalistic evolution of Pnimiyus HaTorah. Generally, we speak about 4 rungs in the ladder. Sulam Mutzavarta, there's 4 rungs, 4 worlds. Atzilus, Bria, Yitzir, and Asiyah. This is all hinted in a pasuk in Yeshaya. Perek Mem Gimel is the end of Pirkei Avos also. The end of Pirkei Avos. Kol Mashabara Kadosh Baruch Hu B'Olam Le'Bra Ela L'Chvaydi Shenemar. The pasuk says, Kol Hanikre B'Shmi V'Lichvaydi B'Rasiv Yitzartiv Afasisiv. Meaning, everything that's called by my name and for my glory, for my honor, I created it, I formed it, and I also made it. So in Kabbalah, this pasuk is a very, very foundational pasuk because this is a remes for the whole Seder Ishtalshelus. He starts off, everything that carries my name and it's from my glory, I created it, I formed it, and I also made it. So l'chayda just looks like a lot of words. And from here the Mishnah proves that everything was created l'chvayda, for Hashem's glory. There's nothing in the world that wasn't created l'kvayda. Every force in nature and every reality is ultimately there to be able to reveal godliness in one form or another form. These 3 terms, barasiv, yitzartiv, afasisiv, represents the division of the 3 worlds. Olam ha'asiyah hagashmi ha'yaruchni, Olam hagalgalam ha'ifkishnikra olam ha'malachim yitzira, v'olam ha'neshamas b'riya. It starts off asisiv. Asisiv is our world. We call it the world of Asiyah. The world that was made, it's a very concrete physical world. There's Asiyah Gashmi, there's also Asiyah Ruchni. Asiyah Ruchni means the world that we live in, but on a spiritual level. Then you have a higher world, it's called Olam HaGalgalim. This is basically the world of outer space, the world of the planets that we don't inhabit. Yeah. Or sometimes it's called Olam HaMalachim, the world of the angels, which is generally Yitzirah. Then you have a higher world called Bria, which is the world of the Neshamas. So Brasiv, Yitzartiv, Afasisiv are not just 3 words. They represent 3 dimensions of reality. And when again, we don't here mean physically that they're in different places. It's 3 dimensions of reality or 3 states of consciousness. The way the world exists on different levels, different frequencies. Just like if you put on different glasses, if you put on microscopic glasses, you see in the same world a different higher reality. Sometimes if you have the right instruments, you could see colors or hear sounds or see things in dimensions that you wouldn't be able to see before. It's not a new thing that just happened now. It's just you have the kalim to be able to see deeper into reality. So that's the pshat. There's different worlds, meaning it's different states of consciousness. Every reality has different dimensions to it. The question is where you live, meaning not what exists, what you're capable of detecting and absorbing with your kalim, with your instruments. Yeah, that's the pshat. So there's different dimensions. Generally, we speak four. Atzilus, Bri, Yitzir, Asiyah, Lechvoidi, Brasav, Yitzartiv, Afasis. This is also the term, it's Brasav, Yitzartiv, Afasis. Shalosh and Brasav, made Ali Savas, Mayan, Liyesh. Meshakasav, Ramban, She'ein, Etzleinu, Beloshan, HaKadosh, Beitzos, Yesh, Ayin, Eloshan, Bara. Mashenkin Yitzartiv, Umeloshan, Nesinas, Tzura, Shemashmos, Adavar, Sheyesh, Nekvar, HaChaimer, VeChaimer, Ze, Mekabel, Esatzura, Hainu, Shein, Zin, Shalis, Havas, Mayan, Liyesh, Kim, Shayesh, Mishtana, Mekabel, Tzura. The word Berasiv and Yitzartiv are very different words. The word Berasiv means I created it. The Ramban writes in the beginning of Parshas Bereshis that in Hebrew, the only word to represent something that emerges, something from nothing, is bara. Yotzar, Yitzira is already forming. You take a chaimer, you take material, and you form it. That's what the word surah means. Right? A tzayar is a painter, an artist. Litzayer is to form. So you take something, the tzayar, the artist, takes something pre-existing, and he turns it into a form. Or the carpenter, or the blacksmith, or the goldsmith. You're taking material that exists, but you give it a form. You impose a form on it, and it's beautiful. You sculpture it into a form. So that's the difference of Berasiv and Yitzartiv. So bara is Yesh and Ayin, something from nothing.
What does the Ramban say?
Bereshis bara, the Ramban says the words Bereshis bara, that ben Lashon Kodesh, we only have the word bara to express Hitzas Yesh and Ayin, to taking a Yesh out of Ayin, which means you're not forming the Ayin into Yesh, because Ayin means nothingness, or no thingness. Nothingness is no thingness. So bara represents a complete Chiddush, a new reality that emerges. Yitzartiv is, you already have the chaimer, you already have something pre-existing, and now this chaimer absorbs a tzura, a new form. Then what's asisiv? Asisiv means you complete it. You can create a form, like you have in all the halachas of kelim. You have the material, you turn it into a keli, but it's not finished yet. It's not makabeh patish, and then it's not makabel tumah. Right? When a potter is making a keli, he may have already formed it, but until he doesn't do the end touches where it's actually usable and it's sold on the market for you to take home, it's not finished, so it's not asisiv yet. You have brasiv, you have atzartiv. Asisiv is, you finish it, you complete it. The final product, what we call the final touches. There's like the creating the house, Yesh and Ayin, so to speak. By us, it's not Yesh and Ayin, but there's creating that new house. There's all the tzuris, and then there's finishing it up. The hardest part, asisiv, the final product. Amnam b'inyan asisiv yeshmaila yiseder shlechein nemer because of afasisiv shemoed al toisvus davar chadash. By asisiv, there's a new thing that's added. That's why there's an af over there. It says berasiv. This is in Yeshaya Hanavi, right? Yeshaya chapter 43. Berasiv yitzartiv afasisiv. It should have said berasiv yitzartiv asisiv. By asisiv, something happens. It's a leap over there. It's a new thing happens. This is why there's an af Aber mit Zadatsia Hagashmis in el Zenemer Afasis of Af Hifsik, Kiven Shis Havus Hayesh Hagashmi. Lamata eine bederich Gestalschluss mit Bchines Brasav Yitzartiv. Elis Havus Higamken bederich me Ayin Liyesh. Shis Havus Zu, he me Bchine Shi Nailis Yoser, Loidak me Yitzartiv ala Fila me Brasav. Shal Zem Meida Hadibu de Tevas Af, Shizo Kaya Chain Sof, She'ene Olul Me'ezi Livasibir Shakad Malay Chas V'Shalom, what did you just experience?
It's no wonder that the final touches it.
Huh? By asisiv it says af. So this is what's the af? It's not just there's bria, there's yitzir, and then asiya. It's just the last stage of development. There's something completely new. Why? Because Asiya represents the way it assumes a physical, concrete manifestation. Generally, especially before Chassidus, Gashmias was looked down at. It's like the last step, like Nebuch, you have to deal with Gashmias. The real world is Ruchnias. And Gashmius is the fake world. And there's a truth to that, because everything gets covered up here. That's one side of it. There's another side of it. And that is, Gashmius represents such a crazy leap, such a quantum leap from before, that it's a revolution. It's a whole new Inyan. In other words, as much as you'll have Ishtalshalus and Ruchnius lower and lower and lower and lower, you're never going to get to Gashmius. Spiritual energy never becomes physical. Maybe goes down. So you can go from Bria, you can go to Yitziri, you can go to Asiya Haruchnis. And it's each one, the energy becoming what you would call more incarnated, more concrete, more like a metaphor, like a mushal and a mushal for a mushal and a mushal for a mushal. And like take an idea and bring it down more and more and more and more. But it still retains the basic quality of what it is, which is ruchni, which is spiritual energy. Something happens in the physical world that it's not just a continuous evolution. It's like it's a breakaway. It's the ultimate breakaway. It's a leap that is an infinite leap. Because mitzad, hishtalshlus, mitzad order, from ruchnius, so you can bring it down, 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 down. But where do you get to Gashmi? That's not a gradual transition of what we call Seder Ishtalshlus. Something completely new happens. It's like a breakaway completely from its source. Yeah, mamash. Because Ruchnius, as low as you go, there's a continuum. It's a continuation. It's going down a ladder. There's a flow. Elamai, from Atzil, it goes to Bria, it goes to Yitzira, and remember, there's myriads and myriads and myriads of levels. It's like an idea. You have an idea that's abstract. You can bring the idea down. Or an emotion. You have the emotion in a very, very pure form, and then it comes down and down and down until it becomes very, very relevant. But it still retains the quality of an idea, the quality of an emotion. How does it suddenly turn into a physical rock? How does spiritual energy suddenly assume a geshem? That's already afasisiv. There's a af. Af is a hefsek. There's a complete interruption and a whole new reality, because when you look at the Gashmi, it's not a continuum, it's just physicality.
It explains why getting something done is actually harder.
Yeah.
Thinking it through.
Yeah. You think it through, you work it through. That's all hishtalshalus in the mind and the heart. Asisiv, to get it done in a way that it's physical, it's concrete. Yeah. So when we said Bria is Yesh and Ayin, Yesh is not Gashmi. Yesh is Ruchni. It's still a Yesh. Yesh is not, spirituality is also a Yesh. Fakert, it's even bigger Yesh. It's a chashuv Yesh. It's a real Yesh. But it's all spiritual energy.
That's called
Is, yeah, is. I-S. Isness, if you want to make up a new word. Yeshus is isness, I-S. It's still Yesh Me'ayin, because Ein Sof is not a Yesh. Ein Sof is not a reality, not even as a spiritual reality. Hashem is not spiritual, just like He's not physical, so not spiritual. Alter Rebbe says, Ein Sof is movdal from Ruchnis as much as it's movdal from Gashmis. To call Hashem spiritual is the same joke like calling Him a statue. Just like God is not a physical rock, He's also not a spiritual energy. Spiritual energies are gevaldik inyanim, seichel, midas, whatever it is. But that's also a definition. It's a different type of definition. It's not the definition of a tissue box. Fine, it's a higher definition. It's a deeper definition. But that's all yesh. So when the Ramban says Bria is yesh, that's not the Gashmi. That's pure spiritual energy of Ein Sof that's manifested in spiritual reality. And b'meila, that's over there to say the ishtalshlus. And as he says, as much ishtalshlus you're going to have, you can have endless ishtalshlus, you're never going to end up in Gashmi. Why? Because it's all energy. It's spiritual energy. Where did you get the Gashmi from? Yeah, right. Mitzad Ohr. So this is an inyan where the Gashmi needs a new Yesh Me'ayin. In other words, to put it this way, even the lowest level of Ruchnius, Legabe Gashmius, is called Ayin. You understand? Bria is Yesh. But to get to Gashmi, you need a whole new Yesh Me'ayin. Because even the lowest level of spirituality, meaning the lowest level of Asiya Haruchnis, Legabe the physicality, it's called Ayin. And in a very practical sense. Because in the Legabe physicality, all spiritual energy doesn't exist. It's maybe a concept, but it's no thing. It's nothing. Ayin means no thing. It's not a thing. In physical worlds, a thing is a thing. You're going to come to a nail before Sukkot, and say, Sukkot is coming, and therefore I think that you should go into the wall. And the nail looks at you and somehow doesn't respond. I've tried it. I tried to build my sukkah through words. I explained to the nail, there's hilchas sukkah, you have to build a sukkah, but sukkah's tesh. Somehow he didn't respond. Even. The only language that the nail understood is a hammer. Yeah. As what your teacher would call petch. Af, yeah. Af, anger. Af also means anger, yeah. But what's what I'm trying to bring out? You say, why isn't the nail listening to me? What, I'm chopped liver? Yeah, you're chopped liver, sorry. In the world of Geshem, you're not a thing. You're not a thing. Go, you want to sweater, go put a sign for a horse or for the deer. You ever put a sign on your garden? To the deer, no trespassing. Somehow the deer don't listen. They're nice animals. They don't, why not? You put a sign. If I see a sign not to come into your garden, I won't go in. The answer is not like the deer is not fighting the sign. It doesn't exist. No, a fence, that's what stops a deer. Even it has to be a certain height. Why not? For a moral person, a sign that this is private property is more powerful than a fence. MS? Yeah. Loi signov, you're not allowed to come in here, I don't give you the shoes, is more powerful. Why? Because you're sensitive to that. So what the deer is corrupt, it doesn't exist. It's not pshat. It doesn't exist in his world. The fence exists in his world. His body feels it. In our world of Geshem, any inyan of Ruchnis is called Ayin. So that's what he says. The Savas Hayesh is not part of Ishtalshlus. A new inyan has to happen, and that's the Af. The Af here is, there's a leap, and this comes straight from Ein Sof. What's pshat straight from Ein Sof? So he quotes it, Alter Rebbe Negeres HaKodesh Siman Chaf, that the Ein Sof doesn't have any Ila V'Sibah. Those are his last words. The Ein Sof doesn't have any precedent. So that's why only he can create a Yesh and Ayin V'Efes HaMuchlat that feels it doesn't have a precedent. The only thing in the world that feels it doesn't have a source is Gashmi. If you ask a rock, where did you come from? He says, where did you come from? If the guf doesn't, I know I have a mother, I know I have a father, I know I have a zayd, I know it because I know how it works. But the Geshmi itself says, Ich bin allemal gewen, ich will allemal sein. People don't feel that they're going to die. There's no such a thing. You know because, you go to a cemetery. I mean, there's enough rayas that people don't live forever. But that's rayas. In hergish, in intuition, everybody's alive forever. So on one hand, we say, that's our ego, that's our mishagas, that's our craziness. The Rebbe says, no, because the Gashmi comes straight from the Ein Sof. Just like the Ein Sof Taka doesn't have a Sibba Ve'ila, so the Gashmi has that same property that the Ein Sof has. What's the property? The property is you feel infinite. Ruchnius knows that it's not infinite, it has a source. It's an expression of something. Gashmi is not an expression. Gashmi says, Ich bin, I am, period. I don't need a justification. Spirituality, there's no words, I am. You're what? Yeah, you're what? I am is a Gashmi vort. We call it arrogance, yeah? It's true, but Alter Rebbe called it atzmos. It's the same thing. What we call arrogance, if you look at the depth of it, it's really atzmos. So it's afasis, it's a whole new bria that's directly to the Ein Sof. It doesn't come through ishtalshalos. There's something in the Gashmi that Ruchnis doesn't have. Ruchnis is part of a system. It's part of a picture. That's why all spirituality feels oneness. Anyone who has spiritual experiences, they'll always describe oneness, connection, bittul, surrender. That's the beauty of Ruchnius. What's the experience of Gashmius? I don't have to experience anything. I am. I'm not part of a picture. I'm not part of a plan. That's why this is the world where you can be a complete atheist. In the world of Ruchnius, it's a joke. The moment, you go on a little journey, you put on glasses that are a little more, all your atheism, it's a joke. They say no atheisms in foxholes, and no atheisms once you see a little deeper, you could say goodbye to your atheism. So on one hand, the Gashmi is the lowest of the low, because it denies everything. But the Rebbe says it is an opposite chiddush in Gashmi. Ha-gufa, that it's a quantum leap, that is not part of the evolution of the Ruchni to the Gashmi. It's afasisiv. It's a new Yesh and Ayin that comes straight from the Ein Sof, who doesn't have any Sibba shekad malay. Hashem Taka doesn't have a Sibba. He Taka doesn't have a source. So Mamela, he creates something that has the same hergish, yesh me ayin v'efes hamuchel, yesh that comes from absolute ayin. Comes from absolute ayin, so how does it exist? That's the chiddush of the yesh. And that's only the gashmi. You typhus. V'hinei klolus in abriya me'ayin leyesh u'ba'ofen she'af al pi shamitis hametzius hi l'mayla dafka. I just want to say parentheses. I'm not going to discuss it about ichus. Generally in the world, Purim, yeah. So what happens at Purim Tishin? You know, people are drunk. It's chaos. I just wonder if this is all happened in the Fabrengen of Purim. I'm saying the Rebbe would teach these things on Purim, and everybody was listening. I'm just saying, Stam. It was. It says Adar Layada. It's a different type of Adar Layada. Now, when we speak about the Bria Me'ayin Liyesh, so we have to understand this. Real Metzius is the higher reality, is God's reality, but that's called Ayin. We call our reality Yesh, and that reality Ayin. Ayin means nothing. It's a pasnisht. Yesh Me'ayin, what do you mean? God is nothing? You should call it Ayin Me'yesh, not Yesh Me'ayin. L'chayre, the Amitis HaMetzius is the divine energy, not the Yesh. But still, we call this Yesh and that Ayin. Hen mitzad hamayla v'hen mitzad hanivra. There's two reasons for it. Sai mitzad the mayla, sai mitzad the source, where it comes from, it's called Ayin, and also mitzad the created being. Mitzad hamayla nikra Ayin, lefi she'es havas ein ela me'ahad ha'balma. Sharei loy zehu ikra elikus mashaylam es mishavim imenu. Ulaga, you hear the words. This is not the ikr of elikus, that worlds come from him. That doesn't define godliness. That's not the ikr of elikus. Masha'elim is mishavim imenu. That's what it means. It's a ha'ara. It's like a ray. Ulaga ikr elikus nikra asara zu b'shem ayin bilvad. And lagabi ikr elikus, this ray is called ayin. It's like nothingness, no things. That's mitzvah, the source. Why it's called ayin. But it's also called ayin from our perspective. The only way the yesh can exist is if he doesn't feel the power of the creator that creates him. And that's why the Yesh HaNivra calls him ayin, because in his world he doesn't exist, he doesn't know about him. He said in Yiddish. The moment the Yesh becomes aware experientially of the Ayin, he's gone. So for the Yesh to be a Yesh, the Ayin has to be nothing. The moment the Ayin is not Ayin, there's no Yesh. If you want to call him Yesh, it has to be Me'ayin. Not because the Ayin doesn't exist. The Ayin exists much more than the Yesh. The whole Yesh comes from the Ayin. Without the Ayin, the Yesh wouldn't be here, even for a second. But for the Yesh to be able to be a Yesh, the Ayin has to be called Ayin, experientially. Intellectually, yeah, you can explain it, but experientially, he can't know about him. It's like a secret. The moment he feels him as Ois Nivra. V'yichle b'hakoyach hapoyel sheyesh bai. He said, Evet oizgein, v'yichle, Evet oizgein. He would be subsumed, he would expire, he would cease to exist in the koyach that is creating him. Al derech Maamar Azal, the Gemara says in Sanhedrin, Hoyshet HaKadosh Baruch Hu etzboi aktana b'neihem v'sarfim. The angels, Hashem put his pinky in between them and burnt them. What does that mean? When he made a fire with his pinky. The pshat is there was a psagili of the ayin v'sarfim. Doesn't mean there was a big fire. The moment the pinky, why the pinky? The Alter Rebbe says in L'Kudat Torah, there's 10 fingers, they represent the 10 spheres. The pinky is Malchus. So even a psagili of Malchus, among them, v'sarfim, they don't exist. For the Yesh to be able to retain its Yeshus, the ayin has to be nothing. It has to be called nothing, even though it's the real Yesh. Yeah. So that's why when we say Yesh Me'ayin, he says there's two inyanim why it's called ayin. One is from the higher perspective, one is from the lower perspective. One, it's called ayin mitzad Hashem, and one, it's called ayin mitzad us. Mitzad Hashem, it's called ayin Because the whole creation comes from a ha'ara, from a ray. So it's called ayin. In other words, if you'll ask the sun, yeah, are you feeling depressed today? So the sun will say, why? You're exhausted. You must be exhausted. Why are you exhausted? He'll say, because one ray went into 18 forshay, another ray is in 20 forshay, another ray is in 22 forshay. I can go throughout all the homes in Monsey, and then all the homes in New York, and all the homes in America, and all the homes in the southern hemisphere. And the sun says, it's a ha'ara, it's a ray. It's a ray, like we learned in the Maamar, the difference of Orah and Shefa. So the ha'ara legabe, the etzem, is ayin. It's ayin. It's like one letter that comes out of your mouth, it doesn't capture the core of your entity to the point that you're exhausted, you're consumed. So the whole bria is called ayin, yesh may ayin. Why is it ayin? Hashem is ayin. Hashem is the real yesh. The answer is because to describe the essence of a lakus. When we describe Hashem, what's our imagination? What is Hashem? A creator. Bashefer. He says, no, the fact that the worlds are created from him, that doesn't define what's the ikir elikus. Yeah, it tells Bashaf, but to define him as Bashefer, that's not the ikir elikus. It's true, all the elements come from him, but to reduce him to the inyan that he is the engine of the worlds and the creator of the worlds, it's not the vart. That's an expression in Likud Torah and Shir Hashirim. A few places Alter Rebbe says this. And even physically, you have a tree, and the tree produces a leaf. The leaf comes from the tree. The leaf couldn't exist without the tree. But to reduce the entire tree and say that this tree is defined by the leaf, this is the holy. No. First of all, there's hundreds of leaves, there's thousands of leaves. This leaf is going to fall away. There's going to be new leaves. It's a beautiful leaf. We appreciate it. But you're not going to reduce the whole identity and value and personality of the tree in the leaf. The leaf is one expression. And that's not really a good metaphor because the leaf and the tree are very relative to each other, and the leaf does reflect many properties of the tree, and the tree produces leaves. It doesn't produce a lot of other things. I'm just giving a little mushal. Even in a person, yeah? Even in a person. If you're communicating with somebody and your entire identity is the value of what you're communicating, then there's something deeply, as you would call, deeply wounded. As much as you're communicating and people are enjoying, but the etzem is so much richer, it's so much more, it's infinitely more rich. I told you once about Moshe Rabbeinu. When you have a real leader, what's the difference between a real leader and a fake leader? A real leader, as powerful as their hashpah, their influence, their essence is so much more impressive. A fake leader is the other way. You don't want to get to know their essence. Yeah, if I care, the whole thing is a showtime, right? And it's torturous when somebody is in that space where their inner life is so much more impoverished than their outer life is torturous. Because every investment in their outer life is tearing them away from themselves. It's the opposite. When the tree looks at a cherry and you pick the cherry or a blueberry or a peach, the tree is happy that you're eating the peach. But the tree doesn't say, now I know who I am because there's a peach that you're enjoying. Okay, great, you're enjoying the peach, enjoy another peach. Come take another peach. But what's in the tree is so much more than what's in the peach. These are all not good mishalim, but there's something to bring out the point. It's true, from the Ein Sof come all the worlds, and we're very grateful. The peaches are delicious, and we appreciate it. But don't reduce ikir halakus to the ilamas mesavim imenu. So all the ilamas come from ayin. What's ayin? It's a ray. It's a dimension of Ein Sof that gets formed into a yesh. That's ayin, but it's all ayin. It's like one ray. How much of the sun can you capture, or can you identify, or can you appreciate through one ray of the sun? We appreciate every ray of the sun. Somebody says, come on, I want to take you to the ocean. We're going to go for a day to the ocean. We're going to go to the Atlantic Ocean. We'll go to the Pacific Ocean. We'll go to the Indian. Yeah, we'll go to the Caribbean. Okay, so you're home, you're ready to go, and then somebody has a cup and they have a drop of water and they say, here's the Pacific, here's this drop I took from the Atlantic Ocean. It's true, the drop, but it's true, the drop came from the Atlantic Ocean. But relative to the Atlantic, what are you going to call this drop? Ayin. What, it doesn't exist? Of course it exists. But it's like a tip in the yarmulke. Not that it doesn't, the tip exists. And we appreciate it. And by studying this drop, that's why, again, the mashal is not so good, because in quantity, it's not a difference. In quality, it's not a difference. By studying this drop, you know what the Atlantic is. So these are all poor mishalim. But what I'm trying to bring out is, the drop comes from the Atlantic. But to say the whole Atlantic Ocean is this drop of water, come on. This cup, really? You go to the Atlantic, you'll see the difference.
Parent and a child.
Huh?
Parent and a child. Child comes from the parent, but to reduce the parent to the child.
Maybe for a father you could say that. I don't know for a mother if that's going to work so well. It's hard for them to differentiate. With a child, it's also different, because a child has a koyach atzmi of the parent. A child is from the atzmius of the parent. It's not just an energy that's ayin. You don't say my ayin energy went into my child. It comes from the atzmius. Here what we're bringing out is that the whole world comes from Hashem, but it's called ayin. Why? Because it's a ha'ara. Ha'ara means that the entire formation of Ein Sof into a world, even the highest spiritual world, is called from ayin. Why? Because Lagabi, the truth of Ein Sof, it's just a one aspect of a glimmer, a fraction that's concretized in the Yesh of Olam Abri, in the Yesh of Olam Atzir, in the Yesh of Olam Asi. Yeah. You understand? That's Ayin mitzad the source. Why it's called Ayin. Why is it called Ayin mitzad us? The opposite. Ayin mitzad the source, it's called Ayin, because Lagabi the Ein Sof, it's Loizel, Ikar Elikus, it's just a heart, it's like a ray. Mitzad us, why it's called Ayin? Because in our world of Yesh, it doesn't exist. Because the moment the Yesh would energetically experience the Ayin, you'd cease to exist. Why would you cease to exist? Not you would cease to exist, your whole existence, you would just see yourself in the Ayin. There wouldn't be anything else outside of the Ayin. Yeah. Even more than a candle in the daylight. Candle in the daylight, you don't see it because the sun is shining. But it's a candle. He has yichus. I'm still worth $5. Okay, I'm not as expensive as the sun. How much is the sun worth? I don't know. How much does Trump want to sell the sun for? Dafim fragen. Yeah. The candle is $5. It's a $5 candle. I know you don't see me. I'm not a yachsin. I don't have chshivas. Here, when you say the yesh is going to be butl in the ayin, it means the candle and the sun are two separate things. It's just the sun is so powerful, it outshines the candle. But here, the yesh would experience that it is ayin. So it's ois kaplishmachi, you just cease to be. You understand? Yeah. If we would feel in everything the divine energy that's creating the yesh, yeah, the yesh is here, but it's nichlas, a gate ois in the ayin.
If we would say that is absolute, then we're not really entitled to say the other way. If we're totally disconnected, we're not disconnected, but if it's completely ayin legava us, then how can we even define something of the first side of it, which is that legava Hashem, it's ayin. We don't begin to even comprehend what any definition of it.
Oh. So it's a funny paradox. The two explanations are l'chora opposite. The first explanation says that legabe Hashem it's ayin. It's like garnished. It's like machrish kein ma'isa from them. Right? It's like the ray of the sun legabe the sun. It's ayin. It's mamish like a ha'ara. It's like one letter that's like a drop from the Atlantic. The second beer is saying the exact opposite. If that was revealed, you would cease to be. And that's the whole word. The whole word is that even the ha'ara of Elikus is so much beyond what the Yesh experiences that even Etzboy Haktana, that's why he brings this Maamar Chazal. He's not bringing a Gemara. Etzboy Haktana means it's the pinky. So it's ayin. Relative to the whole energy, it's like the pinky. Pinky is not a vital organ, it's ayin. And yet, even it's bayaktana, sorry from they can't exist. It's what we learned about the tzimtzum, that there has to be a complete removal of the Ein Sof for there to be a yesh. Why? Because even it's bayaktana, even the tiniest glimmer of a ha'ara of the Ein Sof, even though it's called ayin, meaning it's nothing, for us, it would spell the end of reality. Our entire conception and experience of reality is by calling godliness ayin. The fact that we call godliness ayin, that is the prerequisite for existence. The moment we stop calling him ayin, we don't mean with I'm not talking words. With words you can say, we're talking experience. If the yesh would intuitively experience the presence of the ayin, you could say goodbye forever. Now, by Chassidus saying this, it's actually spoiling it. You understand that? He's teaching it because say this is what you're gonna this is what you're gonna realize one day. You're gonna realize one day that the ganze yesh that we build up, it's not in Chassidus. You don't fight the yesh. You never fight the yesh because memanavshich. The real yesh that comes from atzmos, you don't want to fight. It's the atzmos alein. And the yesh that's fake, you don't have to fight. You just have to reveal a little bit of the ayin in its ice. So there's no conflict in life. You understand? The Baal Shem Tov eliminated anxiety. Why? The real yesh, you don't want to fight. It's atzmos mamash, like we said before. The fake yesh, the ego, you don't have to fight him. He never existed. He never will exist. You just have to bring in a pinky of emes and size. There's no real fight here. That's what happens. You know the mashal with they used to say the difference between Musar and Chassidus, Shmaka mashal. There was once a fight between the sun and the wind. Who's more powerful? So the wind says, nobody's like me. I have a power. Ruach Sa'ara, Haysa Orah. I know. The sun says, no, I'm much more powerful. They said, let's do a context. There's a Jew walking here, and he's wearing a coat. Yeah. So with power, we'll be able to get rid of his coat. So the wind starts blowing to force him, when you do real wind and it's blowing off the coat. So what does this person do? He puts on the coat stronger. So the wind blows more. The coat is flying off, so he puts it on stronger. At some point he's almost flying away, and with his last koiches, he's holding on to the coat because it's going to fly away, and he knows his life depends on it. So the sun looks at the wind and says, let me try. And the sun starts shining. It gets warmer and warmer and warmer, and slowly he takes off the coat. That's the difference. That's Musar versus Chassidus. I'm going to force your bad midas out of you. So what happens? You hold on stronger. I'm going to guilt you. I'm going to shame you. I don't mean a particular sefer of money. I mean the approach of breaking people. You break a taiva, now you have two. Why? Because you hold on stronger. People don't realize shaming something is coming from the thing that you're trying to get rid of. By shaming it, you're actually intensifying it much more. Because it's the shame that it was the reason you have this whole thing. But people don't realize that. You think you're going to shame yourself. It's that very energy that is hijacking you in the name of morality. Yeah. And you don't realize it because it's very camouflaged. When the sun shines, I need this coat. You crazy? It's the most beautiful day. I mean, I know not today. Today you need a coat, but Shabbos, so we had a beautiful weather. It's a beautiful. What are you wearing a coat for? So you're going to start arguing. No, I want the coat. At some point, you don't want the coat. It's just a burden. It's taking you away from enjoying the day, and that's really what life is. Get rid of your ego. You don't have to get rid of anything. If you'll experience the sun, you don't need it. You don't want it. Everything we talk about in all the Maamarim, what's the nikud of it all? You say, Einoid Mulvadayin, and no yash. What's the nikud? It's not guilt. It's not shame. It's you really don't need this coat. It's simply a burden, and a crazy burden that's not allowing you to enjoy sunlight. That's it. There's a beautiful sun. Enjoy the weather. Sit by the water. It's geschmack.
Don't fight it.
Yeah. And it's again, this is not preaching. We're not talking about preaching here. That this is also guilt. It's an experience. So that's what Chassidus is explaining this. You have to understand the whole buildup of Yesh is all based on the fact that the Ayin is called Ayin. The moment Ayin is not Ayin anymore, the moment Ayin would be Yesh, it's Yesh. Now the Yesh is part of the Kavanah of the Bria. So we have two reasons that we call it Yesh Me'ayin. You understand? One is mitzad the Maila, mitzad the higher perspective, one is the lower perspective. From Hashem's perspective, why is it called Ayin if it's Him? God is not nothing. The answer is because that's the line. That's the key line. Don't define Elikus by the fact that the worlds come from Him. It's true the worlds come from Him. Aber nicht in dem besteht Elikus. Because even the highest world, the highest is finiteness. Don't reduce Ein Sof to finiteness. It comes from Him, avada, like the ray of the sun comes from the sun. But don't reduce the entire sun to the ray. And again, it's not a good mashal, because the sun is limited, the sun is big, but it's relative to the ray. It's not infinite. The drop of the Atlantic, it's a mashal, but it's not a good mashal, because the Atlantic is pretty big, but it's limited. The tippa is from the yam. And if the Gemara says in Hoyriyus, Rabbi Yeshua said, Yecholni l'shayir kama tippis yesh b'yam. Rabbi Yeshua ben Chananya said, I could measure how many drops of water are in the ocean. As Rabbi Yeshua gesagt. And I believe AI is busy with these things. Ask AI, you can do it. How many drops of water are in the Pacific Ocean? You'll get an answer. It's a pretty big number, but you're going to get an answer. So I'm saying this because it's a good mashal, but it's also a terrible mashal. But you're going to reduce the whole Atlantic to the drop. We're not minimizing a drop of water. Nobody's minimizing a cup of water. You can't drink the whole Pacific Ocean. It's going to kill you. So we're very thankful that we have a cup of water. But to reduce the Pacific Ocean to the cup and say das is das, come on. You're completely depriving yourself of life. Why is that so negay and avoida? People think that this makes the world small. No, it makes the world big, because it's basically telling you that the world we live in, don't reduce it to the world you're living in. It's so much more, right? If you take this world and you trace it back to the source, pure Ein Sof. So that's why we call the koyach of Elikus, that is mitzumtzum, in creating a world, God as the engine and the designer of the universe is called Ayin. It's also a shtickle derech eretz. Yitoif is the Edelkeit here. It's very, very, very edel of art. To define Hashem as the ultimate designer, construction, designer, architect, builder, pretty good. It's a nice world, but it's really ayin. It's garnished. Yeah. By Chassidim, the biggest compliment was the bist garnished. If I can sein garnished, I'm chaya. If you could be.
How you react.
Depends if you're taka garnished or you're busy being garnished. It's a big difference. Or besignen acher, if it's a trauma garnished or it's a divine garnished. It's a big difference. There's Yesh Ayin v'Yesh Ayin. So the Ayin is the Ayin. Huh? Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, yeah. So Nekuda Torah, the Alter Rebbe always says the first Nekuda. I mean, a lot. Right, that's the whole Inyan. And it's such a Yesod as the Kavart, because basically what it says is, if you want to find the Nekuda of Emes, don't think you're going to find it even in the Ayin. In other words, even in the Koyach that is invested in the Bria, that is ultimately a reduction of the Ein Sof into a Ha'ara. Into a Adar. The Gemara says, wherever you find Hashem's greatness, you find His humility. The end of Maseches Milal. The Rebbe Taich is much deeper. What we call Gdula is really the ultimate Anava. What we call Gdula, which is infinite greatness, the Gemara says, Gdula zu ma'aseh bereishis in Maseches Brachos at the end on Ches. Gdula, it's really Anvas Nusay. It's really Ayin. It's really, for Hashem, it's called Ayin. It's reducing yourself into something that's really nothing. Which of course really means that that the true essence of everything, right? The true essence of everything is beyond what you ever imagine. In other words, it's the pure Ein Sof beyond what you imagine. Huh? Yeah. So that's one Nakuda. But here he's Moisef a second part, Mitzad Nivra. Why is it called Ayin? Because the ability for the Yesh to be a Yesh is only because you don't feel the Koyach HaBayre that's creating you. And it's a funny thing. If Hashem is creating the world every single moment, why are you learning this in my Maamar? It should be like, it should be in every chemistry book. It should be in every science book. You don't even need science. It should be in your heart. I know that I need oxygen. A child comes out of the womb. It knows it needs oxygen. It knows it needs to nurse. It's the DNA. It's part of the program. But the answer is that there's a cutoff. For the Yesh, it's almost like, when the child comes out of the womb, right? It's a new tkufa. And everything, it says that right, it forgets everything it learned in the womb. What Pshat it forgets? It should forget. The Pshat is, for it to survive as an independent person, you have to forget everything. The moment you would know who you were before, you can't be who you are now. So for the Yesh, for that moment, for the Ayin to come into Yesh, the Ayin at that moment says, okay, I'm going into Ayin. I don't exist anymore. Yeah, there's like a disconnect. And this is the ultimate abandonment wound. Now you have to understand what the real abandonment wound is. The real abandonment wound is this moment. For the Yesh to be a Yesh, even on the most basic level, the Ayin says, I have to disappear from your consciousness. What does that mean? A moment before you became a Yesh, who were you? Pure Ayin. You were pure Ein Sof. You were part of Ayin. Disappear from your perspective, not disappear at all. Disappear from your perspective. From your perspective, I don't exist. I'm called Ayin, nothing, and that's essential for you to be you, because you'll never be you if I am present. Yeah.
But we can't say that there's a disconnect.
There's no disconnect from the Yesh's experience for it to be able to assume Yesh. It has to be able to say, what else is there? Nothing. God, nothing. What do you mean? God, nothing. And also, it's the authenticity of it, right? He doesn't say it's kfira, calling Hashem Ayin is kfira. It's because that's the truth. In other words, you have to appreciate this. A relationship with Hashem in this world means that mitzad the Yesh's experience, it's always going to be called Ayin. Avodah tries to change that. But mitzad the intuitive experience of the world. Yeah, that's why he's teaching it. He's trying to destroy the status quo. But you have to first understand this. If you don't understand the status quo, you can't destroy the status quo. You just bypass it. If you're not toifas this nekuda, your relationship is a fake relationship. Because you're denying your Yesh. This is very important. We'll go back to the two words you've heard me say before. Dira b'tachtoinim. As much as a relationship with Hashem means that you understand Ayin, at least something, it also means you understand Yesh. Because if you don't understand Yesh, you're bypassing Yesh. So that means you're denying Yesh, which is, first of all, against the whole Kavanah, and it's not real, because you are a Yesh. So understanding that mitzad the Yesh, godliness is Ayin, is essential to build a relationship. You understand what I said? Yeah. Or to put it differently, Metzias is a hachana to bittul. In other words, you have to know what the Yesh is. You don't create me a new reality that doesn't exist. If God didn't want Yesh, He could have kept it by the Ayin. There was no problem. the more you appreciate what Yesh is, now you know what to work with. You're working with a reality that the moment it experiences Ayin, it goes crazy. And you have to understand something. That's why Klippa will put up a fight for its life. People want to know why are my blockages so powerful? Because they're fighting for their life, for heaven's sake. Have a bisur rachmanis on Klippa. You hear? It's fighting for its life. When you're fighting for your life and I'm just fighting for luxury, it's not going to be the same fight. The Rebbe once said in a Purim Fabrengen, Balatel, Balachritz, that anti-Semites, what Jews don't understand is anti-Semites, when they're fighting Jews, they're fighting for their life. Because they know that a Jew represents Hashem and it's Ois Klippa. It's not a regular hatred. It's not I hate you because you took my house, because you stole money from me. Fine. No. I'm fighting for my life. Yesh is fighting for its life. Of course Klippa goes crazy. People want to know why they're doing so much work. It keeps on coming back. Of course. Well, you just wanted to die. You want Klippa to invite the Chaver Kadisha and say, bury me? Say Kaddish? It's not going to do that. Yeah, the moment the Ayin starts coming into the Yesh, he's Ois. So Klippa, which its job is to make sure that the Ayin doesn't come into the Yesh, is literally fighting for its life. It'll do anything, and that's why it's so brilliant and clever, and it's going to catch you from one. You think you have already progressed, and then boom, I'll knock you down. I'll show you, we exist. It's his last attempt to say, Ad Kan, I'm not just going to surrender and die. You have to appreciate it. Don't take it seriously, but appreciate it. Don't take him so seriously, but appreciate him and understand how hard he's going to fight. He's not going to go down easily. For him, it's pikuach nefesh doiche kol ha-Torah kula. Why for some people this is oxygen and other people don't know what you're talking about? The answer is because it's Ayin. When you're sensitive to what Ayin is, it's everything. When you're not, it's called nothing. That's what Ayin is. That's what Ayin is. Why is this? For some people, this is oxygen. This is life. You poirish from this, it's kapoirish min ha-Chaim. The Gemara says kapoirish min ha-Chaim, right? Father, I don't know what you're talking about. Like, the answer, this is what Ayin is. If you get what Ayin is, it's everything. If not, you call it nothing. That's the beauty of it. Choose. If your taif is what it is, Ayin is not nothing, it's no thing. So it's everything. Because no thing is the source of everything. Because if it's a thing, it can't be everything. It's a thing. Only no thing can be everything because it's the source of everything because it's no thing. That's on one level. If you don't get it, you look at it and you say, nothing. So when you see that word, nothing, you can read it as nothing or no thing. That just depends how sensitive you are. If the Yesh is more stuck in its bubble, it's nothing. What did you say? Nothing. If your Yesh already got a crack, that's the gift of those who have been cracked by life. So the Yesh already is fragile. So the Yesh says, maybe it's no thing. And that's the beginning of Ge'ulas HaYesh. No thing, not nothing. They say there was a father, and he was very upset at his child, because his child believed in God, and the father was a good atheist. So whatever he can, he tried to convince his son that there's no God. And it's Sinish Gelangen. He checked his tefillin, his mezuzahs. He tried to do everything good, but it didn't work. So he decided on Eitzah. One night his son was sleeping, and he put under the pillow a note. And the note read, God is nowhere. God is nowhere. And he thought his son will wake up and he'll say, I have a note. And what's the note? The note is from heaven. God is nowhere. So if heaven itself is an atheist, it's gewaldig. So he wakes up and he's all excited, and the son runs over to him and said, Daddy, a note fell down from heaven and it says, God is now here. Verstehst? The poor father. It's all the tziruf. God is nowhere. God is exactly the same thing. It's his Yesh. Same ayin. From one perspective, ayin is nothing. It's nothing. Nothing is nothing. You don't deal with nothing. Don't talk about nothing. Go home. Nobody sits to talk about nothing. But if you put on a little bit of a different prescription of glasses, you don't want to talk anything. There's nothing to talk about if you're not talking about ayin. You typhus, everything else is a bdicha. Everything else is a joke. It's a kinderspiel. It's like Monopoly versus real money. I mean, you want to talk about Monopoly all day, fine. It's good for a game. But, you're not going to sell and build real estate with Monopoly. I mean, I wish I could win a Monopoly game and have all those hotels. Right? It's not even a Monopoly game. A Monopoly game at least is good for a little fun with your kids on whenever you play Monopoly. But here, it's not even that. So what is it really? It's really it's really where the person is. It's the same words. One person, stop talking about nothing. Stop talking about nothing. And the other, if this is nothing, it's all I want to talk about, because there's no thing. Talking about things, what are you really talking about? You're talking about a little thing. There's a word that the Chassidic writes in Derech Mitzvah. He says, why is it that Aristotle, the more he learned, the more arrogant he became? And the Rambam, the more he learned, the more humble he became. So he says, Aristotle was looking to understand the Yesh. So the more he understood the Yesh, the more Yeshes he got. The Rambam was looking to understand the Ayin that creates the Yesh. So the more he understood the Yesh, the more he felt the Ayin, the more humble he became. Yeah, that says it all. Two people, the same information, the same science, same physics, the same facts. One person becomes more arrogant, becomes more obnoxious, becomes more self-centered, becomes more filled with himself. And the other person melts away in ecstasy more. Why? They're both learning about the Yesh. He's searching for the Yesh of the Yesh, and he's searching for the Ayin in the Yesh. So one makes more, the more I have the Yesh, so now I control the Yesh. The scientist controls the world. Yeah, that's what till Corona they thought they're going to control the world. And even Jews thought at least doctors control the world. Today, saying Groise Cholam Shecholmu Achedem Alachedem. Yeah. It's in mitzvos milah, I think, yeah. In Derech Mitzvah. The Rambam, he was looking for the ayin. So the more he saw the yesh, the more ayin. Haysa Tetzaveh aktana b'neim v'sarfim Bais Medrash. V'sarfim is a compliment. It's not. People think v'sarfim over there could be understood as a punishment. But and over there it's talking about what's up with the malachim. They were complaining, but the nekud of v'sarfim here is the bittul. Al kol panim. So what's the nekud here? That there's a whole ishtalshlus, bria, yitzira, asiya. But asiya, there's an af, because something new happens, because to get from ruchnias to gashmias, you need a whole new yesh, not just a yesh ruchni, a yesh gashmi. And that comes from the Ein Sof himself, who has no source, and therefore he can create a yesh that has l'cha'ira, no source. And then he says, and we always call it yesh me ayin, even though Hashem is not ayin, it's not nice even, it's an insult. Stop calling it yesh me'ayin. Call it yesh mi-yesh ha'amiti. The answer is two inyanim. Sai mitzad beire, because it's only from ayin, which is a ha'ara. Lo yizeu ikira lukus mashalom zavamena. And sai mitzad nivra, because the yesh can only exist because he doesn't feel the koyach ha'beire. Eina yedeya. And if he would know about him, meaning if he would feel him, veter ois nivra. So for the yesh to be yesh, the ayin has to say, okay, I gotta go into hiding. Now the yesh emerges, and it's like, OMG, like deep down the yesh knows the emes, because it's true, it comes from ayin. But if the yesh would know the emes, it wouldn't be a yesh. So do you understand the struggle of life? The yesh somehow knows if it ever finds out the truth, it ceases to exist. So do you understand how much resistance there is to experience truth? It's not you'll experience truth and you're going to lose your house. That's also a big deal. You're going to experience truth and you cease to exist. How much surrender do you need for that? But until you're not ready for that surrender, you're not ready to live, because your whole life is based on a lie. Yeah, to be or to be not, that is the question. There's to be or not to be, and then there's to be or to be not. Now you want to know what's the connection to Purim. Okay, das darf man sehen. Be'ezer Hashem will continue the Maamar on Thursday morning, 7:45. Tomorrow we have a women's class, and we'll continue this on Thursday. Everybody have a beautiful day in which you bring together the Ayin and the Yesh, at least a little bit. Steifes geban. Reichel Loshen, huh? Should not play it. So I'm moided the kavart why it's called Ayin. The moment it's not Ayin, the Yesh is Ois. It has to be Ayin. If you want Yesh, Hashem has to be Ayin. The Maamar, yes, Meyusad of Eira Teire Megillas Esther, yes. Maamar von Tzemach Tzedek. Huh? Bas what? Yeah, Basi Lagani, yeah. Yeah.